Did Jesus worship the God of Islam? Check this out.
So here I would say to you, we don't worship a God from Arabia. We worship the God which God has told us in the Quran is the same God of Noah, the same God of Abraham, the same God of Moses, the same God of Jesus, the same God of Muhammad. Peace be upon all of them. That God whom He has sent them to the humanity to guide them to the path. He is, and by the way, name Allah is the same name that Jesus used because Jesus spoke Aramaic, yes? Speak Aramaic and as well Hebrew, never spoke English, yeah? So Jesus, when He was saying and speaking in Aramaic, the Aramaic term for Allah, Allahu, Allahu, I will just say, I'm just giving, yeah, that's fine. So Allahu is the same, which is the term that used Elohim in Hebrew, Allah in Arabic. So it's not an Arabian God. Do you understand? Now is your comment to say.
So this guy does not understand Hebrew, and he's misquoting Aramaic in order to fit his narrative. Is the Aramaic word for God Allah, or Allahu, as he says in this video? And when Jesus spoke of God in Aramaic, did he use the word Allah? Was he speaking of the God of Islam? Now, firstly, the God of Islam is not the God of Abraham, Moses, Noah, and Jesus. Adonai, the God of the Bible, Yahweh or Yahovah, is not Allah. They're not the same. The one is the God of Israel, the God of Moses, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the one whom Jesus referred to as his father. Allah is the God of Muhammad. Do not conflate or confuse the two. Now, this man says that the Aramaic term Allahu is parallel to the Hebrew word Elohim. This is simply not true at all. Did you know that parts of the Tanakh, the Old Testament, were actually written in Aramaic? So we can look and see what words were used referring to God. Portions of Daniel and Ezra were written in Aramaic. If we look in Daniel chapter 3, in verse number 25, where it refers to one being like unto the Son of God in that fiery furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. In Aramaic, the term like to the Son of God is Labar Elohim. Bar being the Aramaic word for son, and Elohim being the Aramaic word that is parallel to Elohim. This is God in the plural. The singular in Hebrew for God, which we don't see very often, it's almost always appearing in the plural when referring to the God of the Bible, Elohim. In the singular, it's pronounced Eloah. But here in the Aramaic, we can see that it's Elohim, not Allahu. But what about when it's referring to a singular entity and not being written in the plural? Well, in verse number 26, when King Nebuchadnezzar refers to the three Hebrew children as the servants of the Most High God, he refers to them in Aramaic as Avdiohi di Elaha. Elaha being the Aramaic word for God, once again. So we have Elaha and we have Elohim, neither of which is Allahu or Allah. But let's look at a couple more verses out of Ezra chapter 5. In Ezra chapter 5 and verse 1, when it uses the phrase the God of Israel, in Aramaic it's written as Elah Israel. That's using an aspirated hey at the end of the word, which we don't really have in English, but it's more of like a kind of a sound. So Elah Israel, the God of Israel. Again, not Allah, not Allahu, but Elah. Later in this same chapter, in verse number 2, when it speaks about the house of God, it says Beit Elaha. Again, not Allahu, not Allah, but Elaha. There is a difference. Near the end of the verse where it talks about the prophets of God, it once again uses the word Elaha. Not Allah, not Allahu, but Elaha. When Jesus spoke of God, he would have used these words, not Allah. In fact, when it's recorded in the Gospels that Jesus spoke Aramaic, speaking of God, and he says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? The words that are used are Eli and Eloi, not Allah and not Allahu. The things that this man is saying in this video is absolutely false. Now, one thing that I do want you to understand is the Arabic language, which clearly materialized about 100 years after the time of Christ, uses the word Allah like our word God to speak of God in a general sense, not a specific entity. And so Christians in parts of the world that speak Arabic, when they would speak of God, the God of the Bible, they would use the word Allah simply because it is the Arabic word for God in a general sense, not specifically having to do with the God of Islam. When I was in college, I had some Indonesian roommates. They were Christians from Indonesia, which is a Muslim country. And in Indonesia, and in fact in their Indonesian Bible, the word that is used for God, the God of the Bible, is Allah, because that's the Arabic word for God. Again, not specifically referring to the God of Islam, but just in a generic term in the same way that you would say Zeus is a Greek god. We would use a lowercase g, referring to a false god. But the Arabic word Allah is similar to the English word God, which is a general word that can refer to the God of the Bible or a different God.
I am a god, you dull creature!
And so did Jesus worship or speak of the God of Islam? No, as Allah is a generic word for God in Arabic and is not the word for God in Aramaic. Is the Arabic word Allah related to the Aramaic word Elaha? Well, they have a similar root. They're both Semitic languages. These words are not the same, but they are related because they have the same Semitic root. But they are not the same. And Jesus certainly did not worship the God of Islam or speak of him in the Gospels.